They moved to the window and saw headlights winding up the mountain road. 3 black SUVs followed by what appeared to be a diplomatic car with flags Da-hyun didn't recognize. Ambassador Yoon has arrived with the Earth delegation, Hannah said, adjusting her appearance to its full diplomatic setting. Her skin now glowed with subtle patterns that seemed to form and reform continuously, and her crystalline hair arranged itself into an elaborate style. Da-hyun suddenly felt very ordinary and underprepared beside her. What should I do? Hannah took his hand, the touch sending that now familiar current through him. Stay beside me. Your presence strengthens my position. A human who understands our proposal and supports peaceful exchange. The sound of car doors slamming echoed from outside. Footsteps approached the observatory entrance. Are you ready? Hannah asked. Da-hyun took a deep breath and nodded. As ready as an astronomy professor can be for an interstellar peace conference. The door opened, revealing a group of serious-faced humans in dark suits, led by a stern woman Da-hyun recognized from news reports as the deputy foreign minister. Behind them came 3 beings similar to Hannah, but with variations in their iridescent skin tones and the structure of their crystalline features. One stepped forward, his skin pulsing with deep blue light. Ambassador Hannah, your unauthorized departure has created quite a diplomatic incident. Ambassador Jin, Hannah acknowledged with a formal gesture. I believe the incident was necessary to prevent a greater one. The human delegation and consortium representatives eyed each other warily as they entered the room. One of the aliens, with pale green skin tones and gentler features, approached Hannah directly. You've taken a great risk, young diplomat, he said, his voice melodic yet concerned. Ambassador Yoon. Hannah bowed slightly. Thank you for arranging this meeting. The human minister spoke next, her voice cold. Professor Kim, harboring an unauthorized extraterrestrial visitor, is a serious offense against national security. Before Da-hyun could respond, Hannah stepped forward, her posture radiating authority despite her smaller stature. Minister Park, with respect, we are all here for a purpose greater than assigning blame. I have prepared a proposal that addresses the concerns of both our peoples. She activated her device, and a complex holographic display filled the center of the room, showing interconnected diagrams, timelines, and text in both human and alien scripts. I present a framework for gradual, mutual exchange, Hannah began, her voice strong and clear, one that respects human sovereignty while acknowledging the responsibilities that come with advanced technology. As the delegates gathered around the display, Da-hyun caught Hannah's eye across the light-filled room. She gave him a small smile, and he felt that strange resonance between them grow stronger. Whatever happened next, he realized, the universe had become a much larger and more interesting place than he had ever imagined. Morning light streamed through the observatory's dome, casting long shadows across the room where tense negotiations had continued through the night. Da-hyun stood by a window, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in gold and pink. His eyes burned from lack of sleep, but he couldn't bring himself to rest while the fate of Earth Consortium relations hung in the balance. Behind him, the discussions continued in measured tones. Ambassador Jin's deep voice carried across the room, his skin pulsing with skeptical blue patterns. The timeline is too accelerated. Humans have barely mastered their own planetary environment, yet you propose sharing interstellar navigation within a decade. Hannah's response was calm but firm. The proposal includes extensive ethical frameworks and verification protocols at each stage. We cannot keep Earth isolated when climate challenges threaten their stability. Minister Park from the Earth delegation leaned forward. And what guarantees do we have that these technologies won't be withdrawn once shared? Your consortium has a history of selective engagement with developing worlds. Da-hyun turned from the window, watching as Hannah manipulated the holographic display to show a new set of diagrams. Her silver eyes caught the morning light as she addressed both sides with diplomatic precision. The simple human clothes she still wore stood in stark contrast to the formal attire of the other diplomats, Yet somehow she commanded the room's attention more effectively than any of them. Each technology transfer would be paired with collaborative research, she explained. Knowledge would be built together, not simply handed over. This creates interdependence rather than dependency. Hannah's silver eyes reflected the stars as she turned to him. I don't know. Much depends on how both sides respond. The communication device suddenly pulsed with renewed light. Hannah picked it up, manipulating its surface with practiced movements. A small holographic projection appeared above it, showing symbols Da-hyun couldn't read. I've made contact with Ambassador Yoon, she said, relief evident in her voice. He represents the moderate faction in the consortium, and has been concerned about my disappearance. Can he help us? Yes, but we need to reach a secure location for direct communication, he suggests. She paused, reading the scrolling symbols. The old observatory on Mountain Jury. It's remote and has the necessary equipment for a stronger connection. That's at least a day's journey from here, Da-hyun said, mentally calculating the distance. We need to hurry. Ambassador Yoon says both Earth security forces and consortium representatives are searching for me. The situation has escalated significantly. Dawn was breaking as they made their way down the mountain, avoiding main trails and roads. Da-hyun's phone had no signal, so they couldn't contact Soo-min to warn her. They could only hope she wouldn't walk into the agents waiting at the cabin. By mid-morning, they had reached a small rural village. Using some cash Da-hyun had in his wallet, they bought food, water, and a map from a local store. The elderly shopkeeper gave Hannah curious glances, but asked no questions. We need transportation, Da-hyun said, as they studied the map outside. It's too far to walk. As if in answer to their problem, they spotted a weathered pickup truck parked behind the store, keys dangling from the ignition. We can't steal it, Da-hyun protested when Hannah nodded toward the vehicle. Not steal. Borrow. She placed a small glowing crystal beside the truck. This will compensate the owner generously. It contains data crystals worth more than this entire village. Da-hyun wanted to argue further, but the sound of an approaching helicopter changed his mind. They climbed into the truck, and he started the engine, sending a silent apology to the owner as they drove away. The journey to Mountain Jury took them through winding back roads, avoiding main highways where checkpoints might have been established. Hannah used her device to monitor communications frequencies, occasionally warning Da-hyun to change course when she detected security chatter. They're coordinating a wide search, she said grimly after one such detection. Your government has committed significant resources to finding us. What about your people, the consortium? They're here too. Ambassador Jin has sent a security team with technology that can track my biorhythms. She looked worried for the first time since Da-hyun had met her. If they find us before we reach Ambassador Yoon, they'll take me back and implement complete isolation protocols for Earth. Meaning no contact, no technology exchange. Worse, Hannah said softly. They would erase all evidence of our existence from Earth records and implement memory suppression for anyone with direct knowledge of us. Da-hyun gripped the steering wheel tighter. They can do that. The technology exists, yes. It's considered a last resort for failed contact scenarios. The old observatory came into view as evening approached, a white dome perched on the mountaintop. Abandoned years ago, when newer facilities were built elsewhere. They left the truck hidden among trees and approached on foot, wary of possible surveillance. The building stood silent and empty, dust covering the floors and equipment. Hannah moved directly to the old radio telescope controls, examining them with expert eyes. Primitive, but functional with modifications, she declared, opening a panel and connecting her communication device to the wiring. As she worked, Da-hyun secured the entrance and checked for signs of other visitors. Finding none, he returned to find Hannah surrounded by a complex holographic display, her fingers moving through the light patterns with practiced ease. I've established contact, she announced. Ambassador Yoon is bringing representatives from both governments here for an emergency meeting. Both? Is that safe? It's our only option. Hannah looked up at him, her silver eyes serious. This may be the last chance to prevent a complete breakdown in relations. Hours passed as they prepared for the meeting. Hannah refined her proposal, while Da-hyun helped clean the main observation room, moving old furniture to create a makeshift conference area. "Someone's coming," Hannah said suddenly, her head tilting as if listening to something Da-hyun couldn't hear. Multiple vehicles. The bathroom door opened, and Hannah emerged wearing one of his t-shirts and a pair of sweatpants, both comically large on her slender frame. Despite the ordinary clothes, there was no disguising her otherworldliness. Her skin still shimmered with that strange iridescence, and her silver eyes caught the morning light. "Good morning," she said, toweling her crystalline hair. "Your cleaning facilities are quite primitive, but effective." Da-hyun handed her a cup of coffee without thinking. "Did you sleep okay?" "I entered restoration cycle adequately. Thank you." She sniffed the coffee curiously before taking a small sip. Her eyes widened. "This contains stimulants." "Caffeine," Da-hyun confirmed. "Sorry, I should have asked if you can have it." "It's fine. We have similar compounds on my world." She took another sip, more appreciative this time. "Though ours don't taste quite so bitter." Da-hyun leaned against the counter. "So about last night. I have questions." "Naturally." Hannah sat at his small dining table, looking surprisingly at ease for someone in hiding. "Where would you like to begin?" "Maybe with why Earth and your people are in negotiations at all." "I've never heard anything about contact with aliens, I mean extraterrestrial civilizations, on the news." Hannah smiled slightly. "Your governments prefer to keep such matters quiet until agreements are reached. The Celestial Consortium made official contact 3 years ago, after observing Earth for several decades. And no one leaked this information." Da-hyun found this hard to believe. "There have been leaks," Hannah admitted, "but they're typically dismissed as conspiracy theories or science fiction. Humans are remarkably adept at ignoring what they aren't ready to accept." Da-hyun couldn't argue with that logic. "What exactly are these negotiations about?" "Resources, technology, cultural exchange." Hannah's expression grew serious. "Earth wants our faster-than-light travel capabilities and energy production methods. The consortium wants access to Earth's unique biological diversity and artistic output." "Art? You came across galaxies for our art." Hannah's eyes brightened. "Your species creates with remarkable passion and variety. Music, visual media, literature. These are highly valued commodities in the greater cosmic community." Da-hyun processed this information, imagining alien beings watching human movies or listening to K-pop. The thought was both amusing and strangely humbling. "And the negotiations aren't going well?" Hannah's demeanor darkened. "No. Many in your government demand immediate technology transfers without understanding the consequences. Several of our technologies require a foundation of ethical frameworks that Earth hasn't developed yet." "And your people?" "Some, like Ambassador Jin, believe contact was premature. That humans are too volatile, too driven by short-term thinking." She looked down at her coffee. "There's talk of severing relations entirely." "That's why you ran," Da-hyun realized. "You disagree with both sides." "I believe in finding middle ground," Hannah confirmed. "But I needed space away from official channels to formulate a proposal that might satisfy both sides." Da-hyun nodded slowly, beginning to understand her predicament. But one thing still bothered him. About this marriage thing. A sharp knock at the door made them both freeze. "Da-hyun, it's Su-min. I brought those research papers you asked for last week." Panic flashed across Hannah's face. Da-hyun gestured urgently toward the bedroom. "Hide," he whispered. Hannah hesitated, then slipped into the bedroom just as another knock came. "Coming," Da-hyun called, quickly scanning the room for any sign of his unusual guest. Seeing nothing obvious, he opened the door. Su-min Park stood in the hallway, a folder tucked under one arm and 2 coffee cups in her hands. Her familiar face, framed by neat black hair, was a jarring contrast to the strangeness of his morning so far. "I thought you might need caffeine," she said, offering him one of the cups. "You looked half dead at yesterday's faculty meeting." "Thanks," Da-hyun said, accepting the coffee despite already having made his own. "Sorry for not answering your texts. It's been a weird night." Soo-min raised an eyebrow as she stepped inside. "Weird how? Did you finally get a social life and not tell me?" Before Da-hyun could answer, a loud thump came from the bedroom, followed by what sounded like muffled cursing in an unfamiliar language. Soo-min's eyes widened. "Oh, you have company. I'm sorry for barging in." Her expression shifted to a knowing smile. "I'll just leave these papers and go." "It's not what you think," Da-hyun said quickly. "Too quickly." "Sure it's not," Soo-min teased. "Don't worry, your secret is safe with me. Though I am curious who finally broke through Professor Kim's infamous wall of solitude." Another crash from the bedroom made them both look toward the door. "Is everything okay in there?" Soo-min asked, concern replacing her amusement. "Fine. Everything's fine." Da-hyun moved to block her path, but Soo-min was already heading toward the bedroom. "Hello. Are you all right?" she called out, reaching for the door handle. Da-hyun braced himself for the inevitable chaos of his colleague discovering an alien in his apartment. But when Soo-min opened the door, they both stood speechless at the sight inside. Hana was half entangled in the curtains by the window, which had partially fallen from their rod. But it wasn't her predicament that rendered them silent. It was her appearance. In her panic, whatever technology had been subtly muting her alien features had deactivated. Her skin now glowed with brilliant pulses of color, and her hair floated around her head as if underwater, the crystalline strands catching light and splitting it into tiny rainbows across the walls. Soo-min's coffee cup hit the floor, spilling across the hardwood. "What? Who is that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Hannah extracted herself from the curtains with as much dignity as possible. "I am Ambassador Hannah of the Celestial Consortium," she said formally, "and I would appreciate discretion regarding my presence here." Soo-min looked from Hannah to Da-hyun and back again. "She's not human." "No," Da-hyun agreed, seeing no point in lying. "And she's in your apartment." "Yes. And she's wearing your clothes." Da-hyun sighed. "It's a long story. One I believe we must now share," Hannah added, approaching them cautiously. "Your friend's quantum signature suggests trustworthiness." Soo-min backed up a step. "My what?" 20 minutes later, they all sat at Da-hyun's dining table. Soo-min was on her third glass of water, having declined anything stronger despite Da-hyun's offer of the emergency soju he kept in his freezer. "So you're telling me," Soo-min said slowly, "that aliens have been in contact with Earth for years, negotiations are breaking down, and you're hiding from both governments because you want peace." "That is correct," Hannah confirmed. "And you chose Da-hyun's apartment because it resonated with your energy. His quantum signature is remarkably compatible with frequencies common on my homeworld." Soo-min took another sip of water. "And this compatibility means you're married according to your customs. A simplification, but essentially accurate." Soo-min set down her glass and began laughing, softly at first, then with increasing intensity until tears formed in her eyes. "What's so funny?" Da-hyun asked, slightly offended. "You," Soo-min managed between laughs. "Mr. I'm too busy for dating ends up accidentally married to an alien diplomat. It's just too perfect." Da-hyun felt his cheeks warm. "We're not actually married. It's just her cultural interpretation." "Actually," Hannah interjected, "the quantum entanglement between our personal energy fields is quite real. In scientific terms, portions of our conscious matrices have synchronized at a subatomic level." This only made Soo-min laugh harder. "Oh, that's much better. You're just quantum entangled." Very casual. Da-hyun shot her a glare, but couldn't help smiling himself. Put that way, the situation did sound absurdly funny. Hannah looked between them, her silver eyes puzzled. I fail to see the humor in fundamental cosmic connections. It's not you, Da-hyun assured her. It's just that on Earth, marriage usually comes after dating, shared experiences, mutual decision-making. Ah, Hana nodded in understanding. You prioritize linear temporal progression over quantum compatibility. Inefficient, but charming in its way. Su-min finally composed herself. Okay, putting aside this cosmic rom-com situation, we need to be practical. How long can you stay hidden here? Won't they be looking for you? Hannah's expression turned serious. Both Earth authorities and consortium security will be searching already. I need approximately 5 of your days to complete my alternative proposal and make contact with moderate factions on both sides. 5 days, Da-hyun repeated. We can manage that, right? A sharp knock at the apartment door made all 3 of them stiffen. Professor Kim, called an unfamiliar male voice. This is Agent Lee from the National Intelligence Service. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Da-hyun's heart hammered in his chest as he exchanged panicked looks with Su-min and Hana. The knock came again, more insistent this time. Professor Kim, we know you're home. Please open the door. Hana moved with surprising speed, gathering her few belongings. Is there another exit? She whispered. Fire escape, Da-hyun mouthed, pointing to the window in his bedroom. Su-min grabbed a notebook and pen from the table. I'll stall them. You two go. Da-hyun hesitated. Are you sure? She nodded firmly. I'll say I'm your colleague working on research. Go. As Su-min moved toward the front door, Da-hyun led Hana to the bedroom window. The fire escape was old and rusty, but it would have to do. He carefully slid the window open, wincing at the squeak of the frame. After you, he whispered. Hana climbed out gracefully, her movements fluid despite the bulky human clothes. Da-hyun followed, sliding the window mostly closed behind them. Through the gap, he could hear Su-min greeting the agents. Professor Kim. Oh, he just stepped out to get breakfast. I'm Dr. Park from the astronomy department. We're working on a paper together. Da-hyun couldn't hear the response, but he knew they didn't have much time. He guided Hana down the metal stairs, both moving as quietly as possible. When they reached the bottom, he led her through the narrow alley behind his building. Where are we going? Hana asked, keeping pace beside him. I'm not sure, Da-hyun admitted. We need somewhere safe to hide while we figure this out. They emerged onto a busy street, the morning crowd providing some cover. Da-hyun noticed several people, giving Hana curious glances. Her otherworldly beauty was impossible to completely disguise, even in oversized human clothes. We need to make you less noticeable, he said, steering them toward a small clothing shop. 20 minutes later, they exited with Hana wearing a wide-brimmed hat, sunglasses, and properly fitting clothes. She had also activated some kind of device that dimmed the iridescence of her skin to a more human-like tone, though it couldn't completely mask the strange quality of her movements or the silver of her eyes behind the dark glasses. This disguise is primitive but effective, she said, adjusting the hat. Where to now? Da-hyun checked his phone to find 3 missed calls from Su-min. He called her back immediately. What happened? He asked as soon as she answered. They searched your apartment, Su-min replied, her voice low. Asked a lot of questions about your recent activities. I played dumb, said we were just working on astronomy research. Did they believe you? I'm not sure. They left, but I think they're watching the building. Don't come back here. Da-hyun felt a chill. What should we do? My cousin has a cabin about 2 hours from the city. It's remote. No neighbors. I'll text you the location. Thank you, Su-min. I don't know how to repay you for this. Just be careful. And Da-hyun, whatever your alien wife is working on, it must be important if both governments are looking for her. Help her finish it. Da-hyun glanced at Hana, who was watching a street performer with fascinated attention. I will. They took a series of buses and trains to reach the outskirts of the city, carefully watching for followers. By mid-afternoon, they had rented a small car using Dahyun's ID and were heading into the mountains. The cabin was exactly as Su-min had described, small, rustic, and isolated, nestled among tall pines with no other buildings in sight. Dahyun unlocked the door with the key hidden under a potted plant, just where Su-min had said it would be. "It's not much," he said apologetically as they entered the simple one-room structure. A bed sat against one wall, a small kitchen area occupied another, and a wood stove dominated the center of the space. Hannah removed her sunglasses and hat, her skin immediately brightening as she deactivated her camouflage. "It's perfect," she said, moving to the window to look out at the forest. "Reminds me of the meditation retreats in the crystal forests of my homeworld." "You have forests. Not like yours. Our trees are crystalline structures that grow toward our three suns, but the feeling is similar, peaceful, removed from civilization." Dahyun busied himself checking the kitchen supplies. Su-min said there should be some basic food here. "We might need to make a trip to a store tomorrow." "I require minimal sustenance," Hannah said. "My species can photosynthesize to some extent." Dahyun paused, a can of soup in his hand. "You can absorb sunlight for food. For supplementary energy, yes." She smiled at his expression. "Your biology is equally strange to me, Professor. The amount of food humans consume is quite remarkable by consortium standards." As evening approached, Dahyun built a small fire in the wood stove. The temperature dropped quickly in the mountains, and the cabin had no other heating. They sat beside it, the flickering light casting dancing shadows on the walls. "So," Dahyun said after they had eaten a simple meal, "tell me more about this proposal you're working on. Maybe I can help." Hannah removed a small device from her pocket, the silver pebble-like object he had seen the night before. It projected a holographic display into the air between them, showing complex symbols and diagrams. "The core issue is trust," she explained. "Earth wants immediate access to our technology. Faster than light travel, fusion energy, medical advances. The consortium fears humans will use these technologies destructively, given your history." "That's not unfair," Dahyun admitted. "We don't have the best track record with powerful technologies." "Precisely. Yet isolation benefits neither side. My proposal is a gradual exchange program. Earth receives technologies in measured steps, with each advancement tied to demonstrated ethical frameworks and global governance agreements." Dahyun studied the holographic display, recognizing mathematical formulas among the alien symbols. "You've put a lot of thought into this." "It's been my life's work," Hannah said quietly. "I believe our civilizations have much to offer each other, but the relationship must develop with care and mutual respect." Their eyes met across the hologram, and Dahyun felt a strange sensation, like a current passing between them. Hannah clearly felt it too, her skin pulsing with brighter colors. "The quantum resonance," she whispered. "It grows stronger." Dahyun wanted to dismiss it as alien mysticism, but he couldn't deny the connection he felt. It was unlike anything he had experienced before, a sense of understanding that went beyond words. "Tell me about your world," he said, partly to break the intensity of the moment. "What's it like where you come from?" Hannah's expression softened. "My homeworld orbits a binary star system. We have 2-day cycles and complex seasons. Our cities are built within living crystal structures that grow over centuries, adapting to our needs." As night deepened, Hannah spoke of her civilization, their art forms that incorporated light and movement, their governance system based on consensus and measured debate, their view of the universe as an interconnected consciousness. Dahyun found himself captivated not just by the alien concepts, but by Hannah herself, her thoughtful explanations, her genuine curiosity about human perspectives, her passion for bridging different worlds. "And what about this marriage concept?" he finally asked. "You said it's based on quantum resonance." Hannah's crystalline hair caught the firelight as she nodded. "When two beings have perfectly matched energy signatures, we consider it the universe's way of indicating compatibility. It's rare, even among my own people. But surely actual marriage requires more than just matching energy. Of course, the resonance is considered an indicator, not a requirement. Most of my people would consider us pre-bonded, identified as compatible, but not yet formally joined. She looked slightly embarrassed. I may have overstated the case in my initial explanation. The stress of the situation. Da-hyun laughed softly. So we're not actually married by your standards either. Not formally. No, though the potential is recognized. She met his eyes directly. The resonance itself is still real, however. Your presence calms my mind in a way I cannot fully explain. Before Da-hyun could respond, a notification sound came from his phone. A text from Sumin. Agents came back, asked about your research, recent contacts. Very interested in your work on interstellar signals. Be careful. We'll try to join you tomorrow. They're connecting the dots, Da-hyun said, showing Hannah the message. My research specialty is analyzing potential communication patterns in stellar radio emissions. They think that's why you contacted me. It's not entirely incorrect, Hannah admitted. Your work has been noticed by our scientists. Your theories about non-linear communication patterns are surprisingly close to our actual methods. Da-hyun felt a strange mix of pride and unease. So my research really did detect alien communications. Some of our early attempts at contact, yes. Hannah smiled. You have good instincts, Professor Kim. Outside, a branch snapped in the darkness. Both of them froze, listening intently. Another crack, closer this time. Someone's out there, Da-hyun whispered, moving to switch off the lights. Hannah quickly deactivated her holographic display and moved to the window, peering carefully into the night. I don't see. A bright light suddenly flooded the cabin from outside, blinding in its intensity. A voice on a megaphone cut through the quiet. This is the National Intelligence Service. We have the building surrounded. Come out with your hands up. Da-hyun's mind raced as the harsh light flooded through every window of the small cabin. Beside him, Hannah had gone completely still, her iridescent skin dimmed to its dullest setting. What do we do? He whispered, staying low and away from the windows. We need a diversion, Hannah replied, her voice barely audible. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the small silver device. This communicator can generate an electromagnetic pulse, but it will drain its power completely. Will that help us escape? It will disable their equipment temporarily, perhaps long enough to reach the forest. The voice outside boomed again. You have 60 seconds to comply before we enter the premises. Da-hyun nodded grimly. Do it. Hannah manipulated the device with nimble fingers. Stand back and close your eyes, she instructed. Da-hyun did as told. Even through closed eyelids, he saw a flash of intense blue light, followed by a strange sensation like static electricity passing over his skin. Outside, he heard confused shouts as flashlights and vehicle headlights suddenly went dark. Now, Hannah grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the back door. They burst into the night, running for the tree line. Behind them, agents shouted in confusion, their equipment dead. Da-hyun heard footsteps pursuing them, but in the darkness, the dense pine forest offered perfect cover. They ran until their lungs burned, following a narrow game trail deeper into the mountains. When they finally stopped to catch their breath, the cabin's lights were no longer visible. Do you think we lost them? Da-hyun gasped, bending over with hands on his knees. Temporarily, Hannah said, her breathing barely affected by their escape. But they will regroup and search the area by morning. So we keep moving. We need to contact someone first. Hannah held up her now darkened communication device. The pulse drained it, but there's a way to recharge it. How? Hannah pointed upward, through a gap in the trees where stars shone brilliantly in the clear mountain sky. Stellar energy. I need direct starlight. They found a small clearing on higher ground, where the view of the night sky was unobstructed. Hannah held the device up, allowing starlight to fall directly upon it. To Da-hyun's amazement, The silver pebble began to glow faintly. "It will take some time," she explained. "Our technology draws energy from specific stellar frequencies." They sat side by side on a fallen log, watching the stars while the device recharged. Despite their precarious situation, Da-hyun felt an odd sense of peace. "Those stars," Hannah said, pointing to a cluster barely visible to the naked eye, "that's where my home system is located, 13 light-years from Earth." Da-hyun squinted up at the faint points of light. "It's strange to think I've been studying that area through telescopes for years, never knowing there was intelligent life there." "Your work was getting close," Hannah said with a small smile. "Your papers on anomalous radio emissions from that sector caused quite a stir among our scientists." A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the soft sounds of the forest at night. Da-hyun found himself studying Hannah's profile, the way starlight played across her features, so alien yet somehow familiar now. "If your proposal works," he asked finally, "what happens to you? Will you go home?"